Welcome to Mary Queen Stories, the official podcast of Mary Queen of the Holy Rosary Parish in Lexington, Kentucky. Our mission is to receive God's love, proclaim the greatness of the Lord, serve joyfully, and make missionary disciples of Jesus Christ. I'm your host, Jennifer Longworth, Communications and Parish Life Coordinator at Mary Queen. My guest today on Mary Queen Stories is Robert Twist.
Yeah, Father Miguel asked me and my wife and Jeff Terhune and his wife Marty to chair the capital campaign, and it was one of those things that I was on the finance council. I kind of understood a lot about it, and we said yes, and we've been working at it for 6 months or so now. Together
in Christ is the theme. Where did the theme come from?
That kind of came, I guess, partly out of the mission statements. And, you know, when you think about doing a capital campaign, it's for everybody. And the things that we're trying to do is really for everybody in the church. The biggest thing is the getting out of the debt. And I'll tell you more about that as we go on. But when we stop having to make a mortgage payment, that will help everybody in the parish.
Absolutely. So how's the campaign going? We've been going for a couple months, 3 months?
Yeah, we really started probably back in April or May with some of the early visits with people. We're at about 3/4 of our goal. We're just rated about $3 million towards our $4 million goal. We've had 475 families turn in a card so far. The money is going well. We'd really like to see more people participate in the campaign. There is, we're not really sure exactly how many families we got in the parish. We had, I think, 2,500 names that we started with. So 475 out of 2,500 is only about 20% participation, maybe a little bit less. We don't really believe we have that many people. We put 1,600 on as our goal, so we're a little more than a quarter of the way in terms of the number of people. We really would like everybody to participate, even if you just turn in a card that says, I'll share my prayers with you. That way everybody knows they've been asked. We can update your data in the database. We'll know that you're here, and there's good things that come out of just turning in the card. And then some people, we hope a lot of people will give us money, and we get to our $4 million goal. So
why did we decide to have a capital campaign anyway?
The last couple of years, we have struggled to balance our budget. And we've had to take money out of savings to make the mortgage payment. At least that's what I say, to balance the budget. The good thing is we've got money in the savings account that we can do that. The bad thing is, though, if you think about it like in your personal life, if you're taking money out of savings to buy your groceries or to pay your rent, it's a good thing you got money in your savings account to do that, but you can't do that for very long. Otherwise, you're going to be in big, big trouble. And that's kind of what we recognize is we need to do something differently than we've been doing before. And we either need to raise the offertory or eliminate some of our expenses. And that's how you solve the problem.
But the capital campaign isn't just about the debt. That's where it starts. But then it continues on and looks a little bigger.
Several people, I imagine, have participated in some of these studies that we've done over the last couple of years, where we ask people we developed a mission and a vision statement for the church, and ask, what do we want for the church that's different than we have today? And we got a long list of what I'll call capital projects that people would like to have. You know, the one that's in the campaign is the new chapel. They would like to have a new cafeteria and kitchen. They would like a parish hall, and kind of list goes on. There's about 10 things in there. And you just can't do them all at once. When you add them all together, there's probably $15+ million worth of stuff in there. And so we tried to decide which were the most important ones. As I mentioned, balancing the budget was the biggest issue that we had that was driving this. We missed the budget by about $330,000. And guess what our mortgage payment is? $312,000. So if we didn't have the mortgage payment, that at least short term balances the budget. Longer term, there's an issue in that the offertory hasn't really changed upward over the last 10 years. It of course went down during COVID, but the 5 years prior to COVID, 2016 to 2020, last year's offertory was not as big as those 5 years, 2016 to 20. So kind of the second step after we're done with the capital campaign is going to be, how do we get the offertory to start going up each year? You know, as the utility bill goes up every year, everything else seems to go up. Everybody knows about that in your personal life, but the church's offertory income hasn't really gone up in the last 10 years.
So you mentioned that there's a goal of $4 million. So how long are we expecting this to take to get to $4 million?
Well, we've set it up for 5 years, and there was some thought that went behind that number. We debated whether it should be, a 3, 4, 5 year campaign. If you do a 1 year campaign, people are thinking very short term and would think about a one-time gift. If you do it over 5 years, you're hoping that people think about, well, what can I do with 5 equal gifts over 5 years, or 60 equal gifts as a monthly gift over 5 years? And people might be more inclined to actually give more money, but it won't be as painful as writing one big check all at once.
Now, how did you come up with the $4 million goal?
We hired an outside consulting company that helped us determine two things, really. One is, what is the capacity for the parish to give money? In other words, how much money could we get from the parish if everything was lined up right? And second is, how willing are the people in the parish to give a certain amount of money? So they did a number of interviews with a number of parishioners. There was other surveys done by the parish separate from this consulting company. The consulting company's name is Greater Mission, and they focus on fundraising for churches and other religious organizations. They're actually working with the Diocese of Lexington, and they've got a track record of success with doing this. And it's interesting when you talk to them about how they build their models as to what is our capacity. There's all sorts of data out there that you don't realize about what is our charitable giving and how much have our parishioners given to the church, which is easy to get. But you can also find out who gave to healthcare, who gave to education, who owns boats, who owns cars. And so there's lots of factors that go in there, and they come up with a number. And it's an estimate. It's not a guarantee. There's some science behind the number that we came up with, $4 million, and we felt that was a reasonable number to go after.
So you mentioned the campaign priority number 1 being debt elimination, and then we're going to look at the chapel. About how much are we looking at of this $4 million going to debt? How much debt do we have, and why is this so urgent?
The short answer is $2.5 million of the $4 million would go to paying off the debt. But with Rob, there's never a simple answer. So let me tell you the rest of the story. The debt as of, I don't know the exact number today, but as of March, it was just under $3.7 million for the Education Life Center, which is where the school is. The ELC was built in 2005, I guess 19 years ago. Cost was $7.3 million, and we took a loan at $6.3 million. So we're down to 3.7. We've made mortgage payments on time ever since then, and the money comes from either offertory or prior capital campaigns or people that just make donations to debt reduction. That debt is a commercial loan that comes due next year, June of 2025. It's a great loan. It's at 2.8% interest, and it's a commercial loan. So commercial loans are for short periods of time. It's different than your home loan that's typically for 30 years. Commercial loans are typically for 5. We got lucky with the last one because it had a low interest rate, and we got it for 10. But that ends next year. And if anybody's paid attention to what's going on outside, we're expecting the interest rate to go to 6 or 7 and maybe even higher. That would drive our mortgage payment from $312,000 a year up by at least $100,000. So in addition to we'll save some money, we're going to avoid some expense with the bigger mortgage payment. The other thing with the 3.7 to get us to 2.5 is we'll make mortgage payments until next June. Another year of mortgage payments will take that debt down to about $3.5 million. We have some money in savings that we can apply $1 million towards the loan balance. Okay, so that takes us down to 2.5. And if you're wondering where we got the money in savings, the church and the school have been the beneficiaries of a number of government programs over the last couple of years, really mostly COVID-related and kind of COVID-related follow-ons where we've gotten money for doing things, and it's avoided us having to spend the money that we otherwise would have had to spend tuition money or offertory money on. So we've got money in the bank that 5 years ago we didn't have. So it's a good thing.
So after we get the debt paid, then the second priority was the chapel. Why is that needed? Why did that become a priority?
That was one of the projects that came up often when we talk to people about what would they like to have. They'd also like to have a parish hall, and as I mentioned, the cafeteria and kitchen. The chapel's about $1 million. It was something that would fit within our $4 million, campaign amount. The cafeteria kitchen was about $3.5 or $4 million for the whole thing. And the parish hall was about $4 million. So those would really need to go into some future plan, whereas the chapel we could do now. In terms of why do we need a chapel, if you've ever come here on, particularly on Friday mornings, there's people in the gathering area outside the chapel because it's not big enough for all the people that are in there. The chapel is also where the tabernacle is. And as you finish Mass, you take the Eucharist from the church through the gathering area and into the chapel. And in the gathering area, oftentimes is coffee sales or Girl Scout cookies or Knights of Columbus, pork sales. It can be distracting. And so getting it to a new place is a good thing, as well as if we make the chapel bigger, our design for $1 million is about 100 seats and have it open into the main body of the church. So that would give us 100 extra seats for Christmas and Easter when we have overflow crowds.
Yeah, because we don't fit 100 in overflow right now.
No, and it hasn't been as bad or as crowded in the last few years, which is a little bit sad. We used to have, television monitors over in the gym, kind of a second service set up over there. But it would be nice to get people coming back and filling up everybody here.
So we're estimating it'll be about $1 million. Where did that number come from?
We had an architect's firm draw up some preliminary plans, and they're very preliminary, and they did the estimates based on square footage. So, it's about, $250 a square foot or something like that. And they get those numbers based on what other construction projects are costing around town right now. Realistically, the chapel won't start until the debt's paid off. So when we talk about a 5-year campaign, we may not actually start construction on the chapel, assuming we get to our $4 million mark, until, year 4 maybe or 5, when we have the money in the bank. Because our intention is not to take another loan for anything if we can help it.
Yeah. You mentioned that a lot of other projects were thrown around the parish hall. I've heard talk about this or that, or where would we put it? And so then a master plan is being developed, correct?
Yes. So all these things we've talked about, we're continuing to try to put it together into a format that we can say, this is what our master plan is over the next, 20 to 30 years. So we don't build a building and then tear it down to put something else there that we kind of forgot that we wanted to do. I kind of tell the story that, we built the school twice, we built the church, and then we renovated it and put the pews in a second time. And a lot of that's driven by maybe not thinking ahead well enough. And what the needs were going to be. If you remember the old school, we had the classrooms that you went into, and then to get the second set of classrooms, you had to go through the first set of classrooms. So that the classroom was basically a hallway. And we don't want to do things like that. We want to plan it out and make sure that we got a place on the site for all the things that we want to do in the future.
So when it comes to making pledges, this is a 5-year campaign. Are people expected to pay in full by that 5-year, or what time frame do families have to pay their pledge?
We'd like to get them all done within 5 years. And if somebody can't, obviously we'd be glad to take money in year 6. The idea of the 5-year campaign was to get people to feel more comfortable giving, a smaller amount of money on a regular basis. To write a check, for example, for $1,500 is a big deal. But if you think about it like, could I set aside $5 a week, which is a little bit less than $25 a month? Well, $25 a month gets you to $1,500 over the course of 5 years. Similarly, if you could do $250 a month, that gets you to $15,000. And to write a check for those bigger numbers is really hard to do. If you do it on a monthly or quarterly basis, based upon your ability, you're more likely to give a more meaningful gift that helps us get closer to our goal.
Do you see this affecting offertory at all?
We tell everybody that we don't want you to change the offertories. You kind of back up in the conversation. The reason we started this was because offertory hasn't increased. So if you take away from the offertory, that just makes it a bigger problem for the day-to-day operations of the church. And so we want everybody to keep their offertory, and longer term, we really need people to bump up their offertory a little bit over time.
So is there an option of donating in other ways, like stocks?
Yes, we can take appreciated stock. Call the parish office if you want details on how to do that. The nice thing about giving appreciated stock is you don't have to pay capital gains tax on it if you donate it directly to a charity, the church being a charity. Similarly, you can give it out of your retirement accounts where you have minimum required distributions and so on. And that's another way to give tax-free to support the campaign.
So what else do people need to know about the capital campaign, Together in Christ?
Well, first of all, we want, again, everybody to participate. So we really want everybody to turn in pledge card. One, we'd like everybody to give a donation. That would be nice. But if all you've got is your prayers, then we appreciate your prayers. And prayers are good to get us where we need to be. And we also can update the database with the information that you provide on the pledge card. We, like I said, had 2,500 names to start with, and we really don't believe we have that many. So that's part of our goal here, is to clean up who actually are our parishioners.
Well, Rob, one question I ask everyone who comes on Mary Queen Stories is about the parish mission statement and which phrase kind of sticks out at you and resonates with you the most. So the parish mission statement is, receive God's love, proclaim the greatness of the Lord, serve joyfully, or make missionary disciples of Jesus Christ.
I guess I'd say the last two probably resonate. Serving joyfully is, when you think about serving joyfully, how can you not be serving joyfully if you're giving your money to a capital campaign? And it really is for everyone. It's for, us together. And by having the debt paid off so that we can spend money on other programs, we have the new chapel that'll fit everybody in, that will help us make missionary disciples of Jesus Christ. Hopefully the good progress continues. Like I said, we're at 3/4 of our goal. All we need is another $1 million.
That's great. That's good and good news. That's very encouraging.
Thank you.
So if someone has more questions, can they reach out to you directly, or should they contact the parish office, or what should people do if they have more questions?
They can call the parish office. That'll give them kind of basic information. If they've got detailed questions, I'd be glad to answer them. They can send me an email. It's robert.twist@gmail.com, and I'll get back in touch with you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Mary Queen Stories. To connect with us, visit mqhr.org/podcast. Until next time, and always, Mary Queen of the Holy Rosary, pray for us.